can't see the movie.
I can't believe we're paying to see something we get on TV for free.
These days, I feel like I'm watching way more television than movies. And it got me thinking, when did that shift actually happen? When did TV start to feel like the main event and movies, well, like the side dish? This isn't just me being dramatic because it really feels like TV has taken over in terms of quality, consistency, and just overall cultural weight. But I also didn't want to go just off a hunch, so I did a little digging, and the more I looked, the more I realized that it's not just in my head. It's not this feeling. There's actually some data, trends, and history that to me explain exactly why television today feels like it's overtaken cinema. For example, when I think about just this year alone in what I've watched, the list of TV shows jumps out immediately. The Rehearsal, Alien Earth, Dexter Resurrection, South Park, The Bear, Poker Face, From, Severance, Andor, Zero Day, The White Lotus, even rewatches like Ted Lasso or classic Simpsons. Now that's already a long list, and more importantly, those are the titles I remember vividly. But compare that to movies. For me, it's been Weapons, Warfare, Black Bag, Mickey 17, Sinners, Bring Her Back, 28 Years Later, The Naked Gun, and another Mission Impossible movie. That's 11 shows versus 9 movies, so not a huge difference in raw numbers, but when I think about the overall impact and about what actually stuck with me this year, what I look forward to, and what I talked about with friends, TV blew films out of the water. And I wondered, is this just me and my taste, or is there something deeper going on?
No business like show business, huh?
Television has been on a steady climb for decades. Back in 2002, there were only about 182 scripted shows made in the US, but by 2018, that number was closer to 500. That's a massive jump. Basically, in less than 20 years, the number of shows has more than doubled, which explains why it feels like there's always something new to binge on. And this boom isn't just quantity, it's also quality. We're living in what critics have called the golden age or peak television, not just going back to Sopranos, Breaking Bad, or The Wire, because those shows kicked off this whole new era where TV wasn't just a second-tier entertainment anymore. Suddenly, television was cinematic. Writers, directors, and even A-list actors all wanted in. That to me only accelerated with the advent of streaming. Platforms like Netflix, Amazon, Apple, and Disney are throwing movie-sized budgets at TV show formats. A single episode of The Crown or The Mandalorian can cost just as much as a mid-range film, and it shows. Every episode feels like a mini-movie event, which, when I think about it, explains a lot about why my attention naturally drifts towards TV. Take The Rehearsal or Severance. To me, every week it felt like an event. High production values, cinematic writing, the kind of ideas that maybe would have been movie material a decade ago. But instead of 1 2-hour release, I was getting a steady drip of that quality over weeks, even months. Same with Andor or The White Lotus. They didn't just entertain me for one night. They became part of my weekly routine. I was anticipating them, building conversations around them, and overall just living with them in my mind. Movies to me don't work like that anymore. A movie trailer drops, you hype it up for a few weeks, anticipating to see it, but then you only see it once, and then it's gone. If you're lucky, another one will grab you the next month. And this to me also feels like it's backed up by viewing habits. Globally, the average person now spends about 2.5 hours a day watching television alone, and more of that is streaming. In fact, in the US, streaming just recently passed both cable and broadcast combined in terms of total viewing time. That's a seismic shift. So when it feels like I say I'm watching way more TV than movies, I also see that statistically, maybe I am, and it makes sense. And maybe you are too.
You have to go through hell to achieve resurrection. Hallelujah.
Here's another piece of the puzzle. We live in a world where every company, every app, every studio is competing for your eyeballs. Movies just aren't designed for that fight. They're one and done, a 2-hour experience once a month. But TV shows, they're perfect. They stretch across weeks. They keep you subscribed to a platform. They give you a reason to come back every Friday night in a way that's been perfectly engineered for the modern attention economy. And the crazy part is that it works. When I look back on my year, the shows I watched didn't just fill time, they shaped the rhythm of my weeks. They became part of my life in a way movies rarely do anymore. Now that's not to say cinema overall is dead. Movies still matter. They still create cultural moments. Barbie and Oppenheimer proved that last year. People will still show up for a great theatrical event. And every now and then, even a film like Everything Everywhere All at Once reminds us that there's still originality and risk that can still thrive on the big screen. But those are the exceptions. For the most part, when you scroll through Netflix for for a movie, I feel like you'd get overwhelmed by choice, give up, and end up watching 3 episodes of The Bear instead. That endless scroll is real because unlike TV, where new episodes drop weekly, new movies on streaming are way less frequent. There's a bigger gap between releases, so the catalog feels stale faster. And it's no coincidence that the shows I listed earlier felt more satisfying. They simply had more time to make an impact, multiple episodes, multiple moments, multiple chances to stick the landing, whereas a movie only gets one shot. So where does this leave us? Are movies dying altogether? Is there any hope for them? No, I think still they'll always be around, but they're also not the cultural heartbeat I feel anymore. Television is. It's where the money is, and it's where the talent is, and it's where our collective attention has ultimately gone. And maybe that's not a tragedy in the first place. Maybe it's just a form of art evolving. Instead of a 2-hour event once a month, we get serialized, ongoing cinematic experiences that live with us week to week and week on. But it does make me think about the title of this video. Is there a lost art to movies? Because in some ways, maybe movies have lost something in the end. Their dominance, their sense of being that ultimate cultural moment. Maybe that torch has now passed on to TV. And unless movies can reinvent themselves, or unless we, the audience, start craving that communal big screen magic again, I think TV is going to stay here in the driver's seat. Has television genuinely surpassed cinema, or is this just a temporary phase while streaming runs wild and out of control? Let me know what you think in the comments below, because I'd love to hear your take. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
I hate to use that term. You got to know what you're sticking it in.
Jesus, Bill.